Next, we have the Nathan S. Bienstock Memorial Scholarship to Thomas Nocera, Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. And again, if we're keeping score this year, Columbia and NYU are in a tie with 4 winners each. Presenting this award is Richard Liebner, who endowed this award. Tom's unorthodox path to journalism led through a construction site and was inspired by his father's passion for world affairs. A graduate of Adelphi University, he has an OPC Foundation Fellowship with the Ground Truth Project.
Carol and I are very proud to keep Nate Bienstock's name alive. It's 55 years ago we formed an agency to represent journalists and broadcasters, and we're now a very proud part of the United Talent Agency. More importantly, I look forward to this day every year because we are supporting and helping to develop the next generation of journalists. And it's never been more important at a time where we have a president who has dubbed the word fake news and forgotten that the Constitution protects journalism. We're very proud of Tom, who comes from a working class family. He owned me in a minute. He's another Brooklyn boy, and we look forward to his development and his growth as a journalist. Tom.
On 74th Street and 3rd Avenue in South Brooklyn, there's a small hookah shop called Tarbush. It sits between a Turkish restaurant and an Arab clothing store. Like the neighborhood it sits in, it's a bit rough looking, but it's storied. I was raised in this area, but I never thought about writing about it or its people in regards to international affairs. One day, though, as the world outside New York simmered, I looked to my home to tell its story. In Tarbush, on an average day, the owner imam, a Lebanese immigrant, sits behind an old register eyeing his customers. They, in turn, sit on red-cushioned couches under tapestries and play dominoes, chat, or watch Arab soap operas on the TV. The day I arrived there, though, the room was quiet, and all eyes, including imams, were turned towards the TV as it showed tanks, planes, and troops navigating a rough-looking desert. It was the Turkish military crossing into northern Syria after American troops were abruptly withdrawn. In the struggle to fill that power vacuum, an extra layer had been added to an already complicated conflict. Tarbush was a local watering hole for people from across the Middle East. And the bar and its customers had weathered the storms of many geopolitical conflicts, the effects of which could be felt at home as well as abroad. That day, I went to see how the diverse clientele, whose homelands were in the throes of ethnic conflicts, were reacting here. And I discovered something incredible. The peace that so eluded their homelands was present at Tarbush, all because Imam would have it no other way. He had fought in the Lebanese Civil War and had seen ethnic violence consume his home, and here, in Tarbush, his own personal kingdom, he'd have nothing of the sort. Customers would keep their opinions to themselves and enjoy each other's company. Even as the neighborhood outside erupted into protest, Imam would tell them, "Play dominoes, don't argue." In a gritty little corner of Brooklyn, a middle-aged immigrant had found solutions that world leaders couldn't. I learned from Imam that when reporting on the grand conflicts of the world, some of the best stories to be told are those from the hyper-local perspective, from the men and women who live the reality. I learned from Imam that the world's woes can be understood not through the grandstanding of politicians, but small people living life. And I intend on taking that lesson I learned from my home wherever I go in my career. Thank you.